start to realize just how dysfunctional the motherfuckers that raise you really are. As a matter of fact, you shouldn't be bragging about that. You should be embarrassed that your ragged ass daddy, oh, he was fine and he had light eyes and he looked good, so we slept together, and now, you know, I got this baby that look just like him, and hate the baby and hate him too because he's nowhere to be found, and that child is his spitting image. Hey everyone, welcome to my channel if you're new, welcome back if you're returning. So this is our third part 3 of Sisterly Sentiments, and we're talking about having children. After this, I've got some great stuff coming up. I want to say thank you to everyone who commented on my other video. I saw a couple of people shared the video. Oh, look at that light. Okay, there we go. I saw a few people share the video. Thank you so much for sharing it and getting me out there. I appreciate y'all, because the YouTube algorithm, like, dang. Anyway, let's get into this. So let me start by saying, don't be upset, right? Just take it as constructive criticism, everything that I say. And I'm sorry about the light. I'm actually going to change this angle, but it's early. Y'all know where I'm going. Like, y'all see me? You see what I'm wearing? I'm going to my favorite place. Hashtag Gym is life. Anyway, so this time around, I'm going to talk to two groups. I'm talking to broke people, and I'm talking to people that were raised in a one-parent household. Now, first, let's go with the one-parent household. If you were raised in a one-parent household, that's not a horrible thing, right? It's a reality. It's life. But you should not be having children. Like, you can have them eventually, but you have work to do. So you need to figure out who raised you. If you're raised by your mother or your father, a single-parent household indicates that something didn't go right in your parents' lives, right? And sometimes we're like due to repeat history if we don't deal with history. So before we take one parent's side and go out here in the world and ruin somebody else's child's life, I feel what you need to do is you need to get to, ooh, that angle's horrible. That sun is beaming. At least it's out though, right? We need to get to the bottom of why did your parents break up? What went wrong in their relationship, so you can be sure not to repeat it in your relationships moving forward, right? And then also, you need to figure out who you were raised by. Like, yeah, your mother or your father or whatever the case. If you were raised by a grandmother or auntie or somebody else, that's a whole nother animal. We'll talk about that in another video. But you need to figure out who you were raised by. Were you raised by a jaded parent? Were you raised by somebody who showed you a real skewed side of things, and now you're going out there with their ideologies and putting that off on other people? Or were you raised by somebody who had a well-rounded worldly view and raised you in that light? Because just because you're raised by a single parent doesn't mean you're doomed to fail, but it does mean that you need to figure out who raised you. Because a lot of people go out here with what they consider to be law, but it's only law because your raggedy ass parent taught you, instilled that in you, embedded it in you, and you are toxic. And you don't even realize you're toxic, but you're toxic because your mother or your father was toxic. So that's one aspect. And let's not get too excited for the ones who had two-parent households, because let me tell you this. If you come from a two-parent household, right, one of your parents was always getting drugged along by the other, meaning that one parent was in and out of jail, you had one parent that was on drugs, you had the other parent who was working their behind off, went to church, tried to teach you how to pray, teach you how to be humble, teach you, humility, teach you all these things, but the other parent was a drunk and abuser and whatever the case. You are worse off than the person who was raised by a single parent household. And I know that we see a lot of stuff in the media where they're like, oh, you need two parents. Let me tell you something. Sometimes having one parent is better than two toxics. Or having one sane parent is better than having one sane and one toxic. Get rid of the toxicity and you maybe do better raising those children, rearing those children, So just because you're raised in a two-family household does not automatically put you at the top of the top of the list, the cream of the crop. Not at all. So I would say if you were raised in a two-parent household and one of your parents was super toxic and you're running around here now having ill will, holding ill will toward them or hating them or whatever the case is, you're the problem. You probably don't need to be dating anyone, not even having kids. We ain't gonna go to the kids, let alone have kids. You don't need to be dating because you need to figure out what went wrong for real in that situation. And the fact that they were in the house means that they definitely instilled a lot of their toxicity on you, whether you want to admit it or not, whether you embraced it or not, there are some things that are just inherently in you. So, you know, your environment plays a huge part. So even if your father was an abuser and he was this and he was that, and you despised him, and you in love with your mama, or you married to your mama, because, you know, some of y'all had that problem. Even if that's the case, you still could possibly have some of those toxic traits from your toxic parent. The one you hate so much is the one you mirror, you know? So that's that. Now, the other group, the broke group, let me tell you something. If you're broke and you're having children, I don't understand what you doing with your life. Like, stop. So if you're broke, you have no business getting pregnant. You need to be figuring out what you want to do with yourself. You need to be figuring out where you're trying to go. You need a game plan. Because I'm like, broke people shouldn't have time to have sex. How do you have time to have sex if you're broke? So that would eliminate a whole bunch of people, because the way I see it, I see the broke people having more kids than the rich people. You know what I mean? I see the broke people out here procreating and making, leaving family, broken family after broken family, way more than people with money. Because it seems to me people with money have something to lose. Broke people have too much time on their hands. So if you utilize some of that time into becoming not broke, then maybe you wouldn't be having all these kids. Now, that goes into the next part of that. I think sometimes when you are on the lower level of the socioeconomic totem pole, sometimes what in my experience, what I've seen, you have a harder time figuring out your path. You have a harder time figuring out what you want to do with your life. And a lot of times that's because the person that you were raised by is in that same socioeconomic situation. So that's why you're in it. You know, so pretty much you are a product of your environment. And I get that, but here's the thing, we don't do excuses over here. So once you become grown, you need to grow the fuck up and do what you gotta do to get yourself out of that position to get where you wanna go. And you don't do that by finding your worth in having children. Or having children because, oh, he was fine and he had light eyes and he looked good, so we slept together, and now, I got this baby that looked just like him, and hate the baby and hate him too because he's nowhere to be found, and that child is his spitting image. This goes back to the whole thing of knowing who raised you, understanding the person or the people who raised you, so that you can look at their mistakes and you can go forward and do better, because you don't want to repeat the same things that they did, because obviously if it was so great, you wouldn't be walking around here spewing your toxicity on the world. So for the brokies, that doesn't mean that you could never have children, but what it does mean is there are more important things to focus on right now. And if your self-esteem and your self-worth is so low that you feel that your life's mission is to have a child, and you are 14 or 16 or 18 or 20 years old or 23 years old, you don't even know who you are. Get to know who you are. And it's easier said than done, because if you don't know something, it's not because you're choosing not to know, it's because you were never taught. Go out, meet people, experience life, do things. That's going to get you out of your bubble. Go to a part of town you've never been to. I'm not saying be reckless, because you can take one or two people that you know with you, and instead of being the loudest voice in the room, just be in the room. So in other words, shut the fuck up. Sit down at the bar and look around. Sit down at the, go to the amusement park, or walk around and look around. Observe how other people act, and then compare that to the people who raised you and your family. And you start to do that over time, you start to realize just how dysfunctional them motherfuckers that raised you really are. And then at that point, you have a choice to make. Don't look at TV and don't look at social media, because that's not going to do it. Live in real life. Go out here in the world and see how other people interact with one another. And say, hey, did my siblings interact like that? Did my mom and my dad interact like that? If the answer is no, then you should do the self-work to understand what it takes to have positive communication and stuff like that. And it's not easy, right? But my thing is, why does it have to be easy? But that's a whole nother sisterly sentiment. So that's it for this one. If you agree, comment down below and let me know. If you disagree, like, you wrong. You can be raised by a single mama or a single daddy. My mama did this and my mama did that. I know, because she had to, but it didn't make her the best person. But she also taught you that men ain't shit. And she also taught you to walk around here, like you got a penis between your legs. But that's a whole nother conversation. Or my mama took care of 25 kids and she only made $1.22 an hour. I mean, sorry. Okay, like, I feel bad for her. As a matter of fact, you shouldn't be bragging about that. You should be embarrassed that your ragged ass daddy left her to do all that. That's what you should be. But anyway, comment down below, let me know how y'all feel, and we'll do this again next time, y'all. Can y'all even see me? I might have to do another outro because I can't see myself. Hold on. Okay, I can see myself now. So comment down below and let me know how y'all feel. Make sure you thumbs this video up. Please subscribe to the channel and share this video. Since YouTube doesn't want to do it, I feel like we can do it on our own. My goal for subscribers was 14,315. I surpassed that goal because now I'm over 20,000. So my goal for this year, I really want to hit like 35,000. Please help me make that happen, make that possible. But yeah, we will do this again next time.